Cabinet approved the implementation of a remediation program in 80 primary schools, with additional measures to be done in the 26 secondary schools of focus. Thus, in academic year 2022-23 and continuing, 106 schools are the objects of intense focus by the Ministry of Education. Among the criteria used for selection of the primary schools would have been the total number or percentage of students who scored less than 30% in SEA, and the number or percentage from the previous year, so that's 2021 back, the need for support with regards to leadership and governance structure at the school, student academic achievement, shortcomings in the completion of curriculum and the method of curriculum delivery, high student absenteeism or truancy, high levels of referral, that is, student indiscipline, high levels of critical incidents, socio-economic challenges, and lack of parental involvement and supervision. At the secondary school level, the criteria for choosing schools would have included the percentage of the Form 1 intake that would have been scoring less than 30% in the SEA, the percentage of students achieving 5 or more CSEC subjects, inclusive of math and English, and that's the threshold for CXE over the period 2019 to 2021, and the value-added measure estimating students' progress, which takes the SEA results, matches it with the CSEC results, and looks at the performance of the students during their secondary school career. The intervention involves the development of a comprehensive, multifaceted, and cohesive system of support. The intent is to ensure that our students are well positioned to achieve, at minimum, basic certification for future self-sufficiency. The specific recommendations for intervention include the following areas: leadership, teacher and teacher development, student services, security, curriculum, discipline, resources, and infrastructure. The components of the program will be further elaborated on by the staff of the ministry, but it involves the employment of learning support assistants both at the secondary school and the primary school level, the employment of dedicated school social workers and guidance counselors along with supervisory staff at all of these schools, the vacation revision program at both the secondary and primary school level, the training of teachers at the primary and secondary school level, and not just teachers but also principals, curriculum officers, school supervisors, an after-school support program for the standards 3 to 5 level of our primary schools, the implementation of restorative practices in 10 secondary schools, the upgrading of facilities for the student support services staff, as well as the infrastructural repair to point the secondary schools. Some of these measures have already taken place at the secondary school level, as those 26 schools came onto the program first. So, for example, they already have their dedicated student support services staff. They already have their learning assistants who have been assigned. The curriculum intervention with regard to the lower secondary proficiency examination has already been implemented, and that is ongoing, being supervised by the curriculum staff as well as the school supervision staff. The ongoing partnership with the TTPS in these schools to deal with the school indiscipline, the ongoing training of teachers and principals. You would have seen the vacation revision program also implemented at the secondary school level. So these measures are ongoing in the secondary school, and we have added now the 80 primary schools to this, and we are currently implementing. The measures that are involved in this program that will be described in more detail by the staff of the Ministry of Education are not designed to be a quick fix, and they do not carry any specific name. The issues affecting the education sector did not develop in 2 years and will not be solved by any one measure, and certainly not quickly. It requires hard work and effort, constant monitoring and evaluation, and commitment to the task. The fact is that our system does have many of these measures built in currently, but they have fallen by the wayside in one way or another over the past years. Therefore, What is critically required is not a new fancy initiative, it is accountability. The staff of the Ministry of Education at all levels who occupy the relevant positions must take charge of their bit of the system and ensure that it works. There must be communication at all levels between divisions, and the methods of data collection and analysis must evolve to suit the needs of today. Only when the system, as it is fully operational, will we know where tweaks are required, and that is the task to which the ministry has set itself, to get our system working to the benefit of the children it was meant to educate. With regards to the listing of the schools that are involved, I will just call the districts and numbers at the primary and secondary level. A full listing will be released with the document and placed on our website. In terms of primary schools, we have 7 from the Caroni district, 5 from the Northeastern district, 23 from the Port of Spain district, 10 from the Southeastern district, 17 from St. George East, 9 from St. Patrick, and 9 from Victoria. With respect to the secondary schools, we have 3 from Caroni, 4 from Northeastern, 7 from Port of Spain and environs, 2 from Southeastern, 6 in St. George East, 3 in St. Patrick, and 1 in Victoria. I'll now ask P.S. Meyer to lead out in describing who will be from the Ministry of Education elaborating on different aspects of the remediation plan.
Thank you, Minister. With us today, we have our Chief Education Officer, our Director School Supervision, and our Director Student Support Services Division. I would now ask our Chief Education Officer, Dr. Peter Smith, to give us an overview of the remediation program.
The Ministry of Education has implemented a range of operational recommendations in its revised operational plan in 26 government secondary schools for the academic year 2022 to 2027 under the following headings: leadership, teacher and teacher development, student services, security, curriculum, discipline, resources, and infrastructure. Measures are also being implemented to deepen the intervention at the primary school level and to include in the remediation program 80 primary schools, many of which are feeder schools to the 26 secondary schools. These measures will address the needs of the primary school students in an effort to increase their performances as they transition to the secondary school level. These primary schools were selected based on the historical performance in the secondary entrance assessment and comprise government and government-assisted schools drawn from across the 7 educational districts in Trinidad. The objectives. The Ministry's remediation program, titled Re-Engaging for Success, involves the development of a comprehensive, multifaceted, and cohesive system of support which will enable students to overcome barriers to learning and re-engage them in classroom instruction. The focus will be on the academic, social, emotional, and intellectual learning obstacles that occur at the neighborhood, family, school, peer, and individual level. The major objective of this remediation program initiative is the enhancement of regular classroom strategies to enable learning to improve instruction for students who have been disengaged from learning at school and for those with mild to moderate learning and behavioral problems. As such, the focus will be on the following 6 areas. 1, enhancing regular classroom strategies to enable learning. For example, improving instruction for students who have become disengaged from learning at the school and for those, as mentioned, with mild to moderate learning behavioral problems. 2, supporting transitions, assisting students and families as they negotiate school and class changes and many other transitions. 3, increasing home and school connections. 4, responding to and where feasible, preventing crises. 5, increasing community involvement and support. And finally, facilitating student and family access to social services and special assistance. The general components of this remediation program comprise 1, instructional support and reinforcement to students. 2, on-site support to students with behavioral challenges. 3, provision of guidance and counseling. 4, increased learning time for students. 5, training of personnel in contemporary approaches in key subject areas. 6, infusion of technology in the development of autonomous learners. 7, upgrading of facilities for student support services. And 8, introducing restorative practices. And just to indicate the 11-point plan, 1, at the primary school level, as was mentioned, the employment of 80 learning support assistants. 2, the employment of 80 school social workers and 7 senior school social workers who would manage the program. 3, the employment of 40 guidance counselors, and again, training is included. 4, the vacation revision program during the July-August 2023 vacation period at the primary school level. 5, training of approximately 400 teachers and curriculum officers, as well as school supervisors. 6, online literacy program for teachers, parents, school social workers, and curriculum officers. And the final component at the primary level is the after-school support program for students of standards 3 to 5. At the secondary level, 1, the implementation of restorative practices at 10 secondary schools. 2, the vacation revision program, again during the July-August 2023 vacation period. The third one, upgrading of facilities for student support. And finally, the employment of a program manager, a remediation manager, who would manage the entire program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. I would now ask Ms. Nurse Carrington, our Manager of Student Support Services, to speak on the aspect of restorative justice.
Restorative justice is a framework which uses values such as respect, relationships, responsibility, repair, and reintegration. The use of restorative practices such as peer mediation, restorative circles, begin again. Restorative justice is a framework which uses values such as respect, relationships, responsibility, repair, and reintegration. The use of restorative practices such as peer mediation, restorative circles, and creating safe spaces seek to assist disruptive students and address the needs of their harms of their behavior. Restorative justice and restorative practices would address the different harms of our students. It will also encourage personal and transformation and healing and accountability and reintegration into the school's community. Restorative practice is not about replacing our traditional behavior system and management in our schools, but the practice is about elevating the culture of a school so students are pulled in and not pushed out, and about fostering a greater sense of community and communal ownership. The practice is evidence-based and effectively used to reduce suspensions, expulsions, and other disciplinary actions and infractions in the schools. Practices have been used in countries such as Canada, the US, Australia, and the Caribbean, and countries such as Barbados and Jamaica. There are different types of restorative processes, and these practices will include things like peer mediation, restorative circles, respect pillars, all aimed at creating a safer, more caring environment. Some of the benefits of the use of this restorative practice framework will be improved relationships at the school, home, and community, more effective teaching and learning environments, greater commitment by everyone to taking the time to listen to one another, and a reduction in bullying and other interpersonal conflicts. A firm will be engaged through the government procurement process for the hiring and training of the restorative practices facilitators and the crafting of the RP school policy. In the initial phase, the implementation of the restorative practices model will be in 10 of our secondary schools of focus, and I will give the list of these 10 schools: Success Lavental Secondary, Digger Martin North Secondary, Shagona South Secondary, Sawa North Secondary, Union Claxton Bay Secondary, Maruga Secondary, Siparia West Secondary, Valencia Secondary, Mucurapo East Secondary, and El Dorado West Secondary.
Okay, now I will ask the Director of School Supervision to share with us some aspects of the revision program and the after-school tutoring program.
Components of the remediation program I'm here to highlight are teacher training, monitoring of schools by school supervision, the vacation revision program, and the after-school support education program. Teacher training. The remediation program will require a cadre of teachers equipped with the modern pedagogical tools for re-engaging students in the classroom. Training will be provided for approximately 400 Standard 4 and 5 teachers in the areas of mathematics, English language arts, and English language arts writing. Diagnoses of students' learning needs will be assessed to target intervention programs that will lead towards improving students' attitude and approach in these subject areas. Additionally, an online literacy program will be available to teachers, students, and parents of standards 3, 4, and 5 classes in all schools. This initiative will be accessible on the Microsoft Teams platform through the generation of email addresses to all participants. Training for content creators and the use of online applications will be provided. Content created from our rich localized culture in a variety of genres will be uploaded into the reading platform and will be accessible to all schools. Reading coaches will be built into the literacy platform for engaging students in an interactive manner. Monitoring of schools by school supervision. The monitoring of schools is critical to ensure standards of operations are maintained. The Division of School Supervision will provide clinical monitoring of the selected schools of focus, 26 secondary and 80 primary schools. District lead teams, referred to as DLT, have already been established in our 7 education districts. Each DLT comprises of school supervisors, curriculum officers, and student support services division personnel. This collaboration offers the 106 schools the required support and guidance for administrators, teachers, and parents for the implementation process. Individual and team visits continue to be scheduled on a weekly basis for the schools of focus in monitoring the operationalization of each component and promoting the establishment of professional learning communities. School supervision will also assist in the preparation and planning of the remediation plan rollout and the coordination of the vacation revision program in July-August 2023. Daily monitoring of selected remediation centers will ensure the smooth operation of center managers, tutors, support services, security details, and resource allocations. Feedback on center operations will be communicated for mitigating risks and other challenges over the duration of the remediation program. Vacation Revision Program. The Vacation Revision Program for July-August 2023 will provide continuity for Standards 4 and 5 students in mathematics, English Language Arts, and English Language Arts Writing after the end of the 2022-2023 academic school year. 240 tutors and 80 center managers will be hired for accommodating approximately 6,000 students in our selected primary schools. Daily classes will be conducted over a 5-week period. Students' achievement levels will be determined prior to the start of the vacation revision program for planned interventions by tutors. Breakfast and lunches will be provided over the 5-week period for students in attendance. The ministry's expectation is that all of the targeted students will access the vacation revision program. After-school support education program. The after-school support education program will provide tuition in the areas of mathematics, English Language Arts, and English Language Arts Writing in the 80 selected primary schools. 80 center managers and 450 tutors will be hired for the implementation of the after-school support education program. The teacher-to-students ratio will be 1:15. The remediation classes will specifically target students of standards 3, 4, and 5 classes. The number of students in these classes currently stands at 8,300 students. Each tutor will provide enrichment and concept reinforcement exercises in alignment with the school's curriculum tailored to students' learning needs. The after-school sessions will run from February for the duration of the school year. Classes will be offered from Mondays to Thursdays. The duration of the after-school session will be 1.5 hours, starting at 3:30 p.m. and ending at 5 p.m. Snacks will be provided for the students in attendance at each center. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will now ask our Manager Corporate Communications to share with us the mentorship and TVET programs.
Coming out of the Vacation Revision Program, Turn Up, Don't Give Up Caravan in 2022, 2 programs have been conceptualized to support the school intervention program and the work of the Student Support Services Division. They are the Turn Up Talks Mentorship Program and the Taste of TVET. The goal of the Turn Up Talks Mentorship Program is to create a structured format for students to hear and engage with the 34 volunteer youth mentors who have been sourced via a national call for youth mentors. These sessions must be aligned to the work of the Student Support Services Division and will be structured and timetabled for Forms 1 to 3 in the 26 schools of focus of the School Intervention Program. The sessions will include in-person inspirational sessions and/or activity-type exercises that engage students to help build their confidence, morale, pride, and feelings of accomplishment individually and in teams. The mentors will be working closely with the school principals and the staff of the SSSD in the schools, and a joint orientation was already done with the youth mentors and SSSD officers, with specific guidelines being finalized for tentative commencement of the program in the schools in the week of February 13th, 2023. The sessions are expected to take place at least once per month and are timetabled, with specific, in each school with specific components, including areas of focus as guided in the presentations. There will be some tailoring of content based on issues identified at specific schools or communities, be activity or engagement based and linked to the needs identified by the district leadership team and the SSSD division for the school. Monitoring and evaluation will be based on participation of students in activities, engagement levels in sessions, monitoring behavior trends in the school. Part of the overall behavior change will be monitored by SSSD and the school-based intervention team in each of the schools. As it relates to taste of TVET, TVET revitalization is one of the pillars of the draft education policy for 2022 to 2025. As such, a focus has been placed on increasing exposure of TVET in general, but with specific focus in the 26 schools of the School Intervention Program. A deeper partnership with MIC, YTEP, NESC, and CTC has been initiated to provide practical sessions in about 8 key TVET subjects to be identified by these bodies in collaboration with guidance and counseling. Focus on exposing opportunities for entrepreneurship in TVET is the main goal. Sessions will target Forms 1 to 3 in the schools and will be timetabled into the school day, with students being registered by their form teacher or TVET teachers for the sessions. They will be given hands-on exposure with simulations and demonstrations in the classroom session, and during lunchtime, the main hall will provide booths for wider school population to get more general information. The program will also explore looking at virtual information sessions for parents on opportunities available for their children. Targeted commencement in term 2 of the academic year in 5 schools is what we're looking at. Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank the staff of the Ministry of Education for the work involved in this particular remedial program. We must express our gratitude to the principals and all the stakeholders for their input. We cannot emphasize enough how much of a collaborative effort this is, drawn from the Ministry of Education's discussions on these particular issues, especially after the COVID experience with our very much involved stakeholders. We would also like to thank the parents for their continued partnership, and we must emphasize that the Ministry of Education requires that parents work with the schools and provide the supervision and discipline to their children. This must be a team effort. We cannot do it alone. We'd also like to thank the media, the viewers and listeners, and say we are looking forward to increased success of our students throughout this investment that the ministry is putting in our children's future. Thank you.
Members of the media, we now go to the question segment of the press conference. I asked if you indicate your name and the media house. We ask one question and we go right or wrong, and then we will start back with the first media house so that we allow all media houses the opportunity to ask a question. Who will be going first?
Good afternoon to everyone on the panel. Kimry Fletcher from Trinidad Express. Minister, you mentioned that this would not be a quick fix. And only when it's fully operational, then you can see the effects to know when what you have to go back and tweak and stuff. So my question is, what effect do you think this will have on the performance level of students in the 2023 SEA? Because certain things that were mentioned, for example, the vacation programs and stuff for July, August, this will be after the students that are currently in Standard 5 would have already set the SE exam. So what is the goal you're looking at to see when will it be fully operational and how would it affect these students right now?
But I think the biggest initiative the ministry would have accomplished to increase the performance of our 2023 SEA students would have been ensuring that physical school restarted. What we saw during the past 2 years would have been the result of our students not having that physical interaction at all. So we are very happy that in this entire school year, they've been out, and they were also out in the last term of the previous school year. So that would have given our students, we believe, the best chance of increasing their performance at the 2023 SEA. And even though we cannot discount the effect of the last 2 years, we look at the data now to determine what exactly and what the effect of that will be on our students. I mean, we have been visiting schools, speaking to teachers, and from their experiences, it is clear that the students would have experienced, some more than others, a struggle in the last 2 years. So coming into the school now, they would have difficulties, but they are in school, and that's a big departure from what would have obtained in the last 2 years.
I know also you mentioned TTPS, their involvement in dealing with in discipline and stuff, but I was concerned when I heard the list of schools being called that there were actually some schools that a lot of fights, school fights and stuff were involved in. For example, the 2 secondary schools in Karipichaima, it resulted in injuries of students and persons outside and stuff, and they won't call part of the 10 schools that is being targeted. So I wanted to know what was the criteria for choosing these schools, and why weren't schools that had a lot of school fights that were in the public not included?
Well, let me say that we are doing a pilot of 10 schools. This is a new venture, and so the ability to implement would impact on all of the expansion of this program. So we would have chosen schools that have had difficulties, and of course, there are more schools than that. We have the police involved in 17 schools. But in order to have a pilot that will assist us in making sure we have a program that can be expanded, we chose 10 schools, and those schools are schools that do have difficulties and that we are working on. The reason you can see in some of those schools that the indiscipline has gone down to some extent is because of the police intervention. But these schools have traditionally had issues, and so we are looking for the pilot to 10, which would not involve all that need it, but once we work out our system properly, we will then expand to the others.
Next.
Good afternoon, Narissa Fraser from the Newsday. I actually wanted to get
I'm
feedback.
not quite sure your mic is on.
Hi, you hearing me better now? All right, let me try and speak a bit louder. Good afternoon, Narissa Fraser from the Newsday. I wanted to get some feedback concerning the recent back and forth with the Teaching Service Commission and the denominational heads over the selection of primary school teachers. I wanted the ministry's feedback on that.
We've had a number of meetings with the stakeholders, that would be national board as well as the TSC separately. We've had one joint meeting last week, and we are set to have another this week to iron out all of the issues surrounding this process. Of course, this is managed by the TSC, but the ministry is, of course, a very involved partner. So we are looking forward to that last meeting, which should take place this week, after which we should be able to iron out the difficulties, and we will proceed in a manner that evolves after this last meeting.
Another question on the remediation program.
Concerning the remediation program, I know infrastructural repairs were also mentioned, right? I think at the start of the school term, there would have been 16 schools that were under repairs during the Christmas. Can we get an update on those schools? I know there were some schools, for example, St. Joseph College, where we had a walkout, teacher walkout or drive out because they had infrastructural issues as well as other security concerns and stuff. So if we're now including in this new big initiative that you all have, infrastructural repairs, where are we at present with the current ones that affected the reopening of schools and students returning? And
Just to mention, school repairs is an ongoing thing. So at the start of school, there would have been 16 undergoing repairs, but there would have been many more than that in the intervening period. So the issues, critical issues at schools are addressed in a matter of priority. So where we have schools that you would see things being highlighted in the media, those would have come to us and we would deal with them. So school repair is ongoing. We have completed in this year alone over 190 something projects in schools over this academic year alone, and that continues. On any given day, you can have as many as 10 schools presenting critical issues, and critical would mean plumbing, sewer, electrical. And so during the rainy season as well, you get more of those, because where you have adverse weather events, then you have issues of roof leaking, you may have ceilings falling, that kind of thing. So it really depends on the season and the time. So we have done over 190 something school projects so far, and it continues apace. What I would have mentioned would have been specific, those 26 schools would have been specific repairs at those schools to address issues that have been outstanding over quite a few years. And at this point, those schools, many of them will be over 40 to 60 years old and need really specific and critical work being done on them.
my next question, Minister, what's your response to the opposition calling on the list of the STA top 200 performing pupils being published once again?
The ministry has already established a position on this, well publicized. It has not changed.
If we have no more questions on the remediation program, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for participating in this afternoon's press conference. The document, as Minnesota have indicated, would be placed on the ministry's website shortly, and you can go to the ministry's website, moe.gov.tt, to get the full document that speaks to the school remediation program. Thank you very much to our viewers online. Good afternoon.
50 by 20, 50 by 25.